We woke up to some pretty unfortunate news today. Game Informer, 33 years, is coming to an end, which is really shocking and really, really sad.
Yeah, this was a big surprise. We all saw this message that Game Informer had posted, and I'll just go ahead and read it. After 33 thrilling years of bringing you the latest news, reviews, and insights from the ever-evolving world of gaming, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Game Informer. From the early days of pixelated adventures to today's immersive virtual realms, we've been honored to share this incredible journey with you, our loyal readers. While our presses may stop, the passion for gaming that we've cultivated together will continue to live on. Thank you for being part of our epic quest, and may your own gaming adventures never end. So, 33 years, Game Informer also had an online branch, but they're closing all of it. And they said all of the staff had been let go, which is a lot of people we know and have worked closely with over the years.
Yeah.
Game Informer was obviously owned by GameStop, the retailer, who was the one that was making the decision, and that's obviously been a company with all sorts of problems over the years, and I think one of their people at the top is now being investigated for insider trading, so it just seems like a complete mess over there. And if you look at, like, you can always judge like the health of a magazine by how thick it is, and when we would see Game Informer, like, oh, it's getting real thin. You hope they can hold on, but they've reached the end, sadly.
This was really a shock for me and just made me so sad because this is something that was such an integral part of the games industry. And you and I, we worked in games communication. We still work in video game marketing communication. And this was like a staple of our job, of the relationships we were building when we were at Nintendo with Game Informer. Was such a huge part of, you know, talking about games and sharing game news. Like, this was the premier place to do that. So just to hear that, like, a pillar of the gaming industry is brought down is not only is it shocking, but it's a little scary too.
It definitely is the end of an era. I can't really think of any notable gaming print magazines in this country, at least, that are still really going in any sort of significant fashion. And it just feels like the only ones that are left are IGN and GameSpot and, you know, a couple others that, you know, they're starting to get gobbled up. So it's definitely dwindling.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that people, you know, if you're newer to games or younger, you may not realize, like, just the absolute power that Game Informer had not that long ago. And, you know, we famously would always get these lists of the most circulated magazines in the United States. And Game Informer was always in, like, the top 5.
Right.
It was like AARP magazine, Oprah magazine, like these hugely, like, mainstream magazines.
And then Game Informer,
and then there was Game Informer
in
the tens of millions of copies released every single month.
Right.
And yes, some of that was propped up a little bit by the fact that, you know, GameStop was pushing that hard with every, you know, pre-order or everything that you did there. But it doesn't matter. Like, it was out there to such a degree that this was how so many people got their information about games. And it was, like, such a prestigious thing that every company wanted to be a part of.
Right. The prestige that they were able to generate was, like, second to none. The access that Game Informer got, they basically had carte blanche. They were the only magazine that could go into, you know, places that no one else went, talk to people, talk to Nintendo developers that no one ever had access to. It was the only time Nintendo would actually do something that they didn't want to do sometimes, to get a Game Informer cover.
Yeah.
Like, those kinds of things you just would not do for anyone else except for Game Informer.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you ever had a big game and you wanted to do something with them, you talked to their former editor-in-chief, Andy McNamara, and you could tell, like, he had the pick of the litter of any big game that's coming out and any big game that's also unannounced in the entire industry. So he was really in the driver's seat on a lot of those. And yeah, like in that stretch of, the early 2000s through the late 2010s, like it really was a who's who of every single big game that came out in this industry, because the call of, tens of millions of readers who are actively buying games is like, this is an incredible opportunity. We all have to get in on this.
Yeah, and if you, in our job at Nintendo, if you landed a Game Informer cover, and you landed several Game Informer covers, like, it was a huge deal at the company. Like, everybody would be like, oh my gosh, you landed a Game Informer cover? That's amazing. I can't believe that you did that for this game. We would be framing Game Informer covers all over the office. Like, again, the prestige of this magazine was like so up there. Like, it was really like there was nobody that could touch it,
Yes.
So it's just incredible what a run they've had.
Right.
And obviously, there's been a lot of changes.
Yeah.
The pandemic happened. There was a shift to a more digital way of getting news. All of that, I think, played a role in what happened eventually. But it's really sad that era is gone.
Yeah. And specific to Nintendo, so yeah, I did help them get 3 covers for Zelda Skyward Sword, New Super Mario Bros. U, and Breath of the Wild was the last one.
That was my favorite.
And they've had a couple since then, but it was kind of like when the magazine was at a bit of a different point and didn't have the same leverage. But Nintendo is so often in any sort of negotiation situation, they have the power.
They hold the cards.
And they can coerce their partners into doing what they want.
Yeah.
This was one of the very rare instances where they did not have all the leverage.
No.
It's like, oh, you don't want to do what we want to do for this cover?
No problem.
Fine,
we have other games.
Because I have a half dozen other huge games that I know we're going to sell so many copies. So I don't care.
Yeah.
You play by our rules or we will not do this.
And Nintendo played by their rules.
And one of the things that they were so strict about of requiring when we did these covers was like they really needed great artwork to put on the cover.
Of course.
Most other magazines would be like, well, we can cobble together some...
You can use your existing...
Some collection of assets.
Your existing artwork that you've already done, and we'll cobble it together.
And occasionally we did do that. For the New Super Mario Bros. U cover, like that is not an entirely original creation. Yeah. But for that one, they really pushed us and put our feet to the fire. Like, if you want to do this for Breath of the Wild, and it was getting late into that campaign, we really didn't have anything left. They're like, you have to deliver us something new, something original, and guess what? It has to be exclusive to us.
Yeah.
Forever.
Forever.
And for Nintendo to go through and say, okay, we want this so bad. And I was part of those negotiations with those developers, and they understood the value of getting that. They said, yes.
We will do it.
We will do this. And they made that incredible, spread of Link and Zelda holding the Master Sword.
That was my favorite thing
for them,
for that game.
With the understanding that they would never be able to use it for any official Nintendo purposes. Like, that was a true moment where you understood the
power.
The leverage and power that Game Informer had over every company, including the all-powerful and mighty Nintendo.
Yeah. But guess what? The artwork that they created for that cover is probably some of the most beautiful artwork that we've ever seen for that game, and that's because Game Informer pushed them to do it.
Exactly. That piece of artwork would not exist in this world if they were not no, you have to do this if you want this opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And it ended up being something that everybody in the company, including the people that made it, the art team, the incredible Breath of the Wild art team that made it, loved and saw great value in the work that they had to do to get that cover. We framed it. We had it signed by Mr. Aonuma. I mean, it's just like a very memorable piece of what this magazine has meant to the industry and the power that it had, even at a huge juggernaut of a company like Nintendo.
Now you might say, well, hold on, I've seen Nintendo using that in in the Zelda books and so on. It's like, yes, about a year after that issue came out, we had these other things that we wanted to do with it. We had to go to them and say, is it okay if we use the artwork that we created for our official art books. And they were very gracious, obviously. They said, yeah,
Of course
you know,
you
a
can,
year
yeah.
time's passed, you were a great partner, this piece is incredible, yes, do whatever you want. So
Yeah.
they eased up on that.
Yeah.
But that is typically the big demand
Yeah.
that they had, that everybody was willing to do. Everybody
I
was willing to
know.
go to such ends because
Yeah.
they thought this would really help their game be a success.
Exactly. So yeah, that is the legacy and of Game Informer,
Right.
and it's very sad that
And
it's
also,
going away.
you know, some really just big names in, you know, in video games that we know, like, you know, Dan Reichert, who's become just, you know, this great figure. Our friend Ben Hansen went on to found MinMax.
Yep.
And now others, you know, are going to have to blaze their own trail. You know, we saw a tweet from our friend Brian Shea, who was a guest on our podcast, saying, "I love you all so much. Thank you for reading our work over the last 33 years. I didn't know this would be my Friday when I woke up this morning. My heart is broken."
Poor Brian.
So we cannot forget the very human element of this.
Yeah.
It seems like nobody on this team
Knew.
saw this coming.
Yeah.
And it's rough. You know,
It's really
Game
rough.
Informer was always very much like its own part of the industry. They're in Minnesota. They're kind of
Cordoned off.
away
Yeah.
from these other hubs of where the industry is. So it always felt like, yeah, we've got, you know, all these other things, but then Game Informer's Game Informer, and they do things their way. They also have the incredible Game Informer Vault,
Oh my gosh, I've been in that vault. It's so
which
incredible.
is like rooms and rooms and rooms full of like
Everything you can.
every
possibly-
game that's been released
Yeah.
for, you know, I don't know how many years. I really wonder what is going to happen
Someone needs to
to
archive
that. Who gets
Give it to the Video Game
who
History
gets that?
Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully something good comes of that.
Yeah, their office in Minnesota is incredible, and yeah, they really do have so much. I mean, 33 years, they have so much of video game history. So I do hope that is taken care of.
Yeah.
But yeah, my heart also breaks for the people that has to go through this. This is just terrible when you have given so much of your life and so much given so much passion into your work, and to have this happen to you and not even have a heads up or anything is just devastating. So
Yes. Very difficult day, and
Yeah.
hard to know kind of what the path forward is for games media, but I think the best we can do is just celebrate those
Yes.
great 33 years.
yes, everybody go and leave very nice comments for your favorite Game Informer editors. Show them your support because they'll need it. All right, we are going to wrap this up, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.